more educated on the rarity of schizophrenia, its 4 different subtypes, and I want to discuss the different treatment options available for those who are diagnosed. The world of mental illness is riddled with a variety of different diseases, some more common than others. In fact, all of you who raised your hands already know someone who's affected by a mental disorder. Schizophrenia is one of the less frequent illnesses, although it's one of the most severe. Its victims, who make up approximately 1% of the population, experience a loss of contact with reality that puts them at a heightened risk of suicide, unemployment, relationship problems, physical ailments, and even early death. To put it in perspective, approximately 2.4 million Americans are diagnosed with a form of schizophrenia. There is hope for those who are diagnosed, however. Those who receive treatment are sometimes able to live a life without hallucinations and paranoia. Also known as dementia praecox, schizophrenia is defined as the severe mental disorder characterized by some, but not necessarily all, of the following features: emotional blunting, intellectual deterioration, social isolation, disorganized speech and behavior, delusions, and hallucinations. This rare disorder comes in 4 different flavors, if you will: paranoid, catatonic, disorganized, and undifferentiated subtypes. Paranoid schizophrenia is the most common form. If you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe played someone who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Those who suffer from paranoid schizophrenia are the ones who have the most symptoms of delusions. For example, a paranoid schizophrenic's delusion that the government is monitoring their every move and is trying to kill them because they know of their secret operations would be one such delusion. Another common delusion is that they believe they're a child of God or the child of the devil. Paranoid schizophrenics often have auditory hallucinations. These auditory hallucinations are not merely just a voice in their head like most of us have, because for people who don't have a mental disorder, our voice is positive. Schizophrenics' voices are negative and unpleasant. They make ongoing criticisms of what they're doing or thinking, and often make cruel comments about their real and imagined faults, and command you to do things that may be harmful to themselves or others. When you have paranoid schizophrenia, these voices seem real. You may talk or even shout to your voices. It's very often that they exhibit signs of anger and anxiety, argumentativeness, emotional distance, self-importance or condescending manner, suicidal thoughts or behaviors, and violence. Catatonic schizophrenia is at the other end of the schizophrenia spectrum, however, in the fact that it's the rarest form. There are 2 kinds of catatonic schizophrenics. The first are the ones who can't speak, move, and rarely respond. There's a dramatic reduction in activity where virtually all movement stops, as in a catatonic stupor. At the end of the extreme, there are overexcited and hyperactive, sometimes mimicking the movements, which is often returned to catatonic excitement. Catatonics will always exhibit one of the 5 following symptoms: physical immobility, where they are unable to move, speak, or stare, and only stare while holding their body in a rigid position; excessive mobility, which is the exact opposite; extreme resistance, where they may not respond to instructions and may resist any attempt to be moved at all; peculiar movements, where they have inappropriate or unusual postures, grimace for long periods of time, and experience strange mannerisms. And the final symptom is mimicking speech or movement, where they repeatedly say one word just spoken by someone else, or repeatedly copy a gesture. Catatonics can sometimes also suffer from delusions and hallucinations. Disorganized subtype is considered the most severe form of schizophrenia by mental health professionals. Those who suffer from disorganized schizophrenia exhibit 3 different kinds of disorganization. The first is disorganized thinking. Disorganized thinking causes illogical, nonsensical thought patterns. This disorganization is noticeable in the way the affected person talks. The second is disorganized behavior. The disorganized behavior is common to the type of schizophrenia that causes severe problems in an affected person's ability to function in daily life. Bathing, dressing appropriately, and preparing meals may be impossible. The final form of disorganization is a disorganization of emotional response. People who have flat affect, where they don't respond at all, merely a blank face and they don't make eye contact, is a form of this lack of emotional response. Although the affected person may show emotion at times, their range of expression is very limited when compared to those who are not diagnosed with a mental disorder. Disorganized schizophrenics may also suffer from delusions and hallucinations and have clumsy and uncoordinated body movements. The final form of schizophrenia is undifferentiated. Schizophrenics who fall into this category exhibit some or maybe all of the symptoms of more than one different kind of the other subtypes. Since their symptoms are so diverse, they are considered undifferentiated. Although this disorder comes in a wide range of subtypes with an even larger variety of symptoms, as I mentioned at the beginning of this speech, there is hope for those diagnosed to have a normal life. As you probably guessed, each of the varying subtypes of schizophrenia has their own treatment options. Although most of these are similar, they are all uniquely constructed to best help the patient. Paranoid schizophrenics need lifelong treatment, which consists of a variety of factors. In addition to a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist or two, a caseworker, and psychotherapy, a paranoid schizophrenic will suffer the least amount of symptoms when they're on some form of medication. Catatonic schizophrenics respond best to medication and ECT therapy. The medication for catatonic schizophrenics is different than the medication for a paranoid disorganized and for some undifferentiated schizophrenics. ECT therapy consists of electric currents being passed through the brain to trigger a minute seizure. This causes changes in the brain's chemistry and works best for catatonic schizophrenics. Disorganized schizophrenics are offered the same form of medications as paranoid schizophrenics. The brain chemistry of a paranoid schizophrenic and of a disorganized schizophrenic are quite similar, and they both react positively to the same forms of medication. Undifferentiated schizophrenics, on the other hand, may receive a variety of treatments, which I've already stated because their characteristics, as I said earlier, are so varying. Now that we know the ins and outs of the 4 different forms of schizophrenia, I hope you leave here with a better understanding